Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology, and today I wanted to go over a topic that a lot of individuals kind of wonder. How do I know if my avoidant partner is worth it? Like, how do I know that it's worth being in this relationship? And even if they do change and we do get married, etc., what are the benefits to being with an avoidant partner? Like, what's the reason? Like, I might as well be with a secure person. A lot of people feel like that. And you're correct. If that's really how you feel, that's fine. But there are benefits to avoidant individuals that you might not get with a secure individual. You might, but it just might not be as solid. And this is just the truth. I'm not saying an avoidant partner is better than others, and I'm not saying they're worse. I'm just saying sometimes there are different benefits. And so I wanted to go over that. So before we go over knowing if your particular partner is worth it or not, let's talk about overall the benefits of being with an avoidant individual, what they offer in the relationship. That could be why you chose them, because maybe these are things that you need without you realizing it. It could be subconscious, but it can help to organize your own mind. So going forward, you can be more aware and be more grateful to your situation in general, right? And so the very first one is emotional stability. Avoidant individuals do offer emotional stability in relationships. They typically do not pick fights. Now, not all of them are like this. That's actually the point, right? Some avoidants are not like this. So this is to help you kind of gauge if your partner fits in this criteria or if they're going in this direction, right? Because fearful avoidants actually do not fit this category very often. This is more dismissive, right? But they often remain calm under pressure. They are able to diffuse conflict, right? They don't like conflict. So some people might take that as conflict avoidant, which it is. But other people might perceive that as peaceful and grounded into the atmosphere of the actual relationship, right? They like to pay attention to the positives in the relationship. Now, of course, on the back end, this can be stressful in the sense because if you really want to engage in conflict because you feel like it'll benefit the relationship, it might be a little bit harder because of this trait. But it's something to look in a positive way. They're probably not going to pick fights as often. Some of them do if they're testing you. However, typically, especially if the relationship has gone on and they trust you, they don't pick fights. And dismissive avoidants don't really do this. Fearful might. But emotional stability is something they tend to offer. The next one is reliable in a crisis. Now, a lot of people perceive crisis very differently. So when I mean crisis, I mean in a tangible perspective, because emotional crises, they're actually probably not as good at that, honestly. And dismissive avoidants also do this a little bit more often than fearful avoidance, but typically in difficult situations. Let's say you broke your arm and you really need to go to the emergency room. They are okay with taking off work or leaving work early and picking you up and driving you to the hospital rather than you, like, I don't know, getting an ambulance or whatever the situation is, right? They are completely fine with that. And they tend to be very steady and very solution focused during this time. They tend to not panic. They tend to, I guess, act more than they are panicking. It actually makes them pretty dependable. And this obviously comes when an avoidant really cares about you and they really love you, both fearful and dismissive, but dismissive more. But the reason why a lot of people do not recognize this is because they're not as good if you have an emotional crisis. Let's say your brother said something that was really hurtful, it triggered you and it really bothered you, and you're, in your feelings, you're pretty upset. Your avoidant partner may not register that as a crisis. So they may not act to kind of like, save the day and be the hero, which is what they tend to do if you're in a physical crisis, right? Actually, it's really interesting. Something just popped up in my mind. I think it was earlier this week or last week. I was working with a couple, and I've worked with them for a while. So this person is processed pretty, well in their healing journey. So, take that in consideration. But they actually had a little bit of an argument about like how she felt emotionally unsafe. Like when he would hang out with his friends and she was there as well, sometimes his friends would like tease her in a way where they tease each other, right? And this is common in American culture. Men kind of like bust on each other in it can come across harsh, but it's it's a good way, right? That means like that's how they are as friends, right? That they're buddies like that. And his friends, the dismissive avoidant, and the partner was anxious, preoccupied. The dismissive avoidant, just was taking it as like regular. But the other thing is that he acts a little bit different around his friends. Like he tries to act a little bit more tough, not as soft in comparison to when he's just alone with her, right? This is not just dismissive avoidance. This is more like a gender difference. Just culturally, men do this with their friends a little bit more often than, males do this more common than females is the best way to put it. But she told him, like, not even in front of them, she was like, I don't really appreciate that, whatever. And the friends were not really listening to that. And then she felt like her partner should step in and protect her emotionally, because she was saying, like, I feel kind of uncomfortable. This almost feels like bullying. And it's not, but that's how she feels, right? And from that perspective, maybe it really is. Like, she felt a little bit uncomfortable with this. She's not used to this type of communication. And instead of her partner stepping up and saying, hey, that's enough, he didn't. He was just playing along with it. Oh, you know what? Relax, whatever. And she felt really dismissed. And so this was the argument that they brought in the session, right? Because they actually got into a pretty big argument after that, because he felt like she's too sensitive, which was his words. And then she was like, you're unreliable. You don't make me feel protected. And he said this, and this was in session. He was like, if anyone ever physically hurt you, like, I would risk my, life. I would do anything for you. And so when you say that, it really hurts me. It makes me feel like you don't know who I am. And he was 100% like, I would do anything for you. Like, I have done so many things for you. Like, I would drive in a thunderstorm to get you if you're at work and your car is not whatever. Like, I will do anything for you. But she's like, no, you wouldn't do anything for me because you let me feel unprotected. That felt like a crisis to me. Like, emotionally, I felt so bad. I came home and I was crying. Like, I felt like, I felt so unloved. But why do I bring that situation up? And this is common. Like, I'm not just bringing their information up. This literal conversation, this friend type of situation, like guy friend, female, anxious, preoccupied. This happened like multiple times in my years of practicing, and I'm pretty young, so this is not uncommon. Like, this is really, really common, this scenario. So this could be anybody, right? But why do I bring this up? Because dismissive, avoidance, and fearful, but especially dismissive, they will do anything tangible for you. Sometimes it's hard for you to recognize that, but if that's a time where you want them to be emotionally there for you, it's important to have that conversation. But that's a benefit that avoidants give you. They are very, very reliable from that perspective. The next one is, a lot of avoidants have a strong, I guess I would call it like a moral compass. Not all of them do, but many of them do. Avoidants are pretty rigid. And so because of that, they have a very strong moral compass. Many are guided by certain principles: integrity, self-control, really common, right? And this often translates to a partner they're going to be blunt, but they're going to be honest, right? I don't like your cooking. That's hurtful, but they're being honest, right? You might think it's hurtful. They don't think it's hurtful. They think it's honest, right? They typically are loyal. A lot of avoidants are loyal. Some are not, and I'll make a video on that later. But most avoidants, especially if they're dismissive, they are pretty loyal. They're honest. Some of them are pretty honest to a fault. They're very direct and they're very blunt. They are very real, right? And that can offer a lot, because actually, without a lot of individuals realizing it, I think this is part of the reason why anxious preoccupied does get very attracted to avoidance, because even if they don't say what you want to hear, they tell you how it is, so you don't actually have to guess. So that's just another thing. The next one is they respect independence. So if you are a very independent person, they will respect that. They value self-reliance, and they often are supportive of your space, your goals, and your autonomy. They tend not to smother you. So that's a very good benefit, right? The last one is, actually, no, I thought of another one. But the second and last one is they're grounded in reality, or they perceive reality without so much emotions flooding them. And so they are aware of what they can control and what they can't. This is common, what I'm about to say. A lot of avoidant individuals are not on social media very often. Like, they don't use social media very often. They have maybe like one picture on their Instagram. They have some followers. They follow very small accounts, and it's private. Like, they are not very social media forward. Some are. Dismissive avoidants, much less often do they lean into social media. Fearful avoidants do, but avoidants are pretty private. And why do I bring that up? Because a lot of them also recognize that social media can be a very negative place, and avoidant individuals can be pretty sensitive to negative emotions, energy, etc. And so they know they cannot control that whatever they're scrolling, they might see something that they're not prepared for. So they minimize that contact on social media. So they tend to be very rigid in that way, but it also means that they're pretty grounded in reality. They know they can't control it. They're not going to fight over it. They're just going to let it go. And a lot of times this actually brings clarity in relationships just in general, because it allows individuals to stay present and not worry or even have unrealistic expectations just in general. Like they tend to be like, they're not going to have too unrealistic expectations for you, at least not in the way where they expect X, Y, and Z, otherwise they're going to leave. Like they're likely not going to give you like ultimatums. That's really uncommon with avoidance. Some fearful avoidants do, but to be completely honest, not all fearful avoidants, but typically if you tell a fearful avoidant, I don't appreciate that, please don't do that, a lot of fearful avoidants will just not do it. Like they will hear you out. And if they make that mistake again, they'll try not to. So a lot of fearful avoidants are like that. The last one is, this is both dismissive and fearful, is once they really get attracted and attached to you, they are very deeply loyal and very commitment forward. They don't make decisions lightly. Obviously, they take a very, very, very long time to commit. But once they do, they absolutely mean it. They are typically faithful, dependable, and they really are here for as long as they possibly can be. So those are some of the ways that avoidants are worth it for a relationship. Now, not all avoidants are like that, but many of those characteristics are common with avoidants. And so how do you know if your partner is worth being with, okay? So the very first one is positive change. And this could be for both partners. Actually, I would say it is for both partners. When both of you guys have made some significant change to get closer, actually not even significant, because it's hard to say, because a lot of people have different perceptions. But if you notice that your avoidant partner has become more open, more affectionate, more able to, I guess, connect with you, that's a sign that there is some progress and they do have commitment somewhere in their subconscious or conscious, right? They're trying to change. And if you are the partner and you notice that you're less reactive, that's also a sign that this relationship is going in the positive direction. The next one is presence of love in general. If you guys love each other, it's hard to love. It really is, especially nowadays. Love is not as common, right? And so it's very important to recognize that love is actually a very encouraging sign, and it might be valuable to know if this relationship is worth it. The next one is open communication. Now, avoidant individuals are not the best with communicating. Sometimes they think they are, but they're not. And the way to recognize if your avoidant individual is worth staying or you think the relationship is worth it is recognize if there's improved communication in general. And that's dependent on your relationship. I don't know where their communication was when you guys started, but has it improved? Are they telling you, the reason I, need some space right now is because I had a long day at work. They tell you. Or please don't text me 3 or 4 times. I'm really busy. I'll call you when I get off work. They are communicating with you. The next one is mutual respect. They respect who you are. It might not always feel like this, but I had a case earlier this month where the fearful avoidant female was, and this is pretty common, fearful avoidant female was feeling bad about something, right? Feeling like she was feeling low in her esteem. She was feeling like I'm not good enough, whatever. And her partner, dismissive avoidant, was actually getting pretty irritated and annoyed, but in a way where he was not annoyed at her. He was annoyed that, her family kind of made her feel like that, a lot of trauma. So he was feeling very protective, but very annoyed. And he was just like, how do you not see, you're smart, you're hardworking. Do you not think you're smart? If you don't think you're smart, then maybe you can be like, dumb people or whatever. It sounded really negative, but what he was trying to say, it didn't really sound like it, but he was trying to say, like, I really respect you for who you are. Don't change for other people. Like, be this way. Don't change because your cousin is saying this to you. Don't change because your mom is telling you that you have to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I respect you. I'm here because I respect you. Like, that's how they translate respect. And so this is just an example to illustrate the many ways avoidance may show respect for you. The next one is shared values. Shared values is tricky because this is something that all individuals will bump into regardless of attachment issues. Do you guys have the same values? Do you guys both value, I guess, financial freedom? Do you guys both value budgeting? Do you guys both have the same perspective on fitness? Do you guys have the same perspective of raising children? Do you guys have the same perspective of eating habits? Like, what are your same perspectives? And everyone's values is different, right? Some people are like, you can't like this sports team. Like that is their like value. Okay. Like, I'm not really a sports type of person, but I get that. I have a lot of people who are like, no, like I have to like, you got to support X, Y, and Z. If you like this one, then I can't, right? Like you can like a couple of these teams, but if you like certain teams, I can't have that relationship. And that's because sports is very valuable to them. So what are your values, and does your partner fit some of them, right? The next one is desire to make it work. Believe it or not, a lot of avoidant individuals do want their relationships to work. They put a lot of effort, they put a lot of time. And so if you notice that your partner has expressed they want to make it work, or, I'm noticing progress X, Y, and Z, and yes, they do say that, by the way. Like they do say like, I'm trying to make it work. Some avoidants do. And that's a very big sign. I would say it's one of the most significant signs, right? Another version of this, which is probably not the healthiest version, but I actually just saw this earlier this week with one of my cases where they want to make progress, but they're very sensitive about, I guess, accusations that they're not, I guess, good enough. So I'll give you the example and then we'll kind of talk about it. So let's say we have an anxious, preoccupied, and a dismissive, avoidant male, anxious, preoccupied female. Maybe he's about to go on a business trip and she said, I noticed your mind's a little bit occupied. And I'm guessing it's because you have a business trip coming up and you have a presentation you have to give. And he was like, no, I'm very much here. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, maybe it's in your head. And so he said, maybe it's in your head, which was not a very nice thing to say because she was probably right. And then he right away adjusted his behavior and he started becoming more emotional, more affectionate, started being more touchy because somewhere inside he was like, oh, maybe. Like, I don't really want to admit this right away. I'm not, there yet, but I don't want to make her feel like I'm distant. Like I want to make it work. Like I don't want to be a distant guy. Like I don't want to be that type of guy who's ignoring my partner before a trip. Like my presentation is important, but it's not so important that I have to sacrifice my relationship. So this is a desire to make it work, even though it's not very obvious. And a lot of avoidants do this. And sometimes it's hard to tell because it can be very subtle. And in an avoidance mind, if you are an avoidant or you've been one or you work with them, whatever the case is, sometimes they think it looks a lot more obvious than it is. And like you can mention to them, it might not be as obvious. Like that's something for you guys to talk about because in avoidance mind, they're very, like it took a lot to get there. I know it sounds so silly, but it's true. It took a lot for them to even like want to do that when you asked. And for them to react in that way, it took probably months and years for them to even get to that point. And so they feel like, oh, wow, like look how much I'm giving, how much I love this person, how much I care for this person. And you might not see it that way, but it's important to recognize two different perspectives, right? Desire to make it work, very important. The next one is conflict resolution skills. If your partner has some conflict resolution skills, even if it's saying like, I don't want to have this conversation right now. Let's just, put it on the back burner and try and have a good day. Another one is taking healthy breaks from an argument or not holding on or grudging. Just as soon as you guys have a conflict, they just move on and they're happy. That's a pretty good sign that they have some good conflict resolution skills. Now, I understand that everyone has different perspectives of conflict resolution skills. And if you want more improvement on that, have a conversation with them. And the next one is loyalty and security. Do you feel like they're loyal? And do you feel like they are securely attached to you? Like not secure in an attachment sense, secure in a legitimate sense. Like they actually make effort to see you. They have told you they're faithful. They said they're not with anybody else and they're not. This is probably a sign that the relationship is worth it. It probably will progress. So I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.